Welcome back to the most audacious EMS podcast on planet Earth, the Paramedic AF Show. We're here to challenge, encourage, and sometimes hurt your feelings. This isn't for the weak, the woke, or the apathetic. This is a show for the ones who show up and give a damn, the bold and the brazen. So stand up, stay vigilant, and enjoy the show.
So echoey. I know. Well, here, let me turn down the echo just a little bit. Is that better? Ish. Stop. Stop it! You're being so mean. No. Okay, let me fix it.
Okay, that should be more normal.
He's being mean today.
Got it. When am I ever not mean? Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh my god. Hey guys, how's it going? Something still sounds a little off about the sound. Am I missing something?
I have no idea.
I don't know, maybe it's just me.
But there's a lot of buttons there.
I know. I think we got all the things fixed, so. Anyway, howdy everybody. Happy post-election day. No, we're not going to talk about it.
No.
Not talking about it. Anyway.
Not that we're not happy with the results, just we're not going there.
Yeah, because this isn't a political show. But what we are going to talk about is a little sensitive, and we know that's why you guys come here, is so that we can, where most people walk on eggshells, we throw a little dance party. So, as a lot of you have probably noticed, there's been a lot of variety in the video releases on how we do the titles, how we do like the visual stuff, some of the extra audio. So I'm slowly standardizing a lot of that stuff because each episode is kind of like an experiment. We're like, well, let's try this and let's see how this works and how this looks and how do we like this. And I think I've finally settled on a new title sequence, which you just saw, which is cool. I keep forgetting they'll have seen it by the time they hear this. But anyway, another thing that, at least for right now, we're putting on the back burners, we're not really doing a book of the month. We will still talk about different books and maybe make some like shorter videos about that individually on stuff that like we're interested in, passionate about, whatnot. Stuff that we think is relevant to you guys to listen to and experience. But we're not going to do the long reading sections for right now, at least on the episodes. We'll kind of see how it goes. We'll mess around with it. Nothing is permanent. Anything else you want to say to the class before we get started?
We're working on TikTok content.
Yes, we're trying. We're getting there. We're basically building a backlog of stuff because as you have done the research on it, we need to like produce a lot of stuff, and release stuff quickly, more so than we have time to do if we were just releasing day by day.
Yeah.
There'll still be some spontaneous stuff. I mean, it's not like we're not going to post, live stuff, but we're trying to build a catalog that we can then just slowly release and add to as we go. Because we do have full-time adulting responsibilities.
We have more than full-time adulting
Yeah.
responsibilities.
Yeah, so we're still working on that. As you have seen by the title of this episode, what we're wanting to talk about is DEI in medicine. For those of you who don't know what DEI is, I'm not really sure there's people that don't know what DEI is. I mean, you and I talked about it some, but
I mean, I think people know the concept, but they may not know what it is. Because how many times do you reference DEI and I'm like, what does that stand for again? Like, I logically know what it is.
Mhm.
We actively talk about it. But like the actual acronym, not everybody may know.
the acronym, in case you didn't know, stands for Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And so it's an acronym that's more, I guess you could say, just a quote principle that is implemented in businesses different ways. There's some corporations that have whole DEI departments. It's basically an extension of HR. Whereas some, it's more just kind of like a, quote, guiding principle or something that they have to, a quote standard that people are held accountable to. And I can appreciate generally speaking, the thought behind it.
Mhm.
Because no, racism isn't good. Discrimination of any kind is not good.
Mhm.
Period. Well, discrimination based on factors outside of your control.
What is it?
I'll go that far. Things that are outside of your control, because ultimately, quote, discrimination, if you're just thinking about it literally, you can't treat every single person exactly identically the same.
Mhm.
So there is some level of discrimination. It's just, what are you discriminating on is really more
Mhm.
the question.
So basically, the principle came about that, just for example, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Um, Really, any business. Um, let's say it's like, well, I mean, public service for the most part. Used to be like an all male, um,
Predominantly male.
well, predominantly male. But like, let's take businesses for example, just as a whole. The whole point of DEI is you have like goals where you want to have like a certain percent of your staff is male, a certain percent is female, a certain percent is white, a certain percent is African American. And to the, like, in general, diversity, inclusion, all that kind of stuff, is important. You don't want to look at somebody and be like, you're an African American female, so you can't work here because,
That's bad
hit,
discrimination.
yeah, bad discrimination. That's that's part of the old history and habits we want to get rid of. But on the flip side, it's being taken to the extreme in a lot of areas, whether it's politics, whether it's business, whether it's public service, whether
Everywhere.
it's anything. It's like it's getting taken to the point where it's, you have two candidates. One is
Not political candidates, but like
like,
work
oh
candidates.
yeah, like applicants, where
Mhm.
you have two applicants, like, okay, well, this person is, a white male, highly qualified, would be great for the job, great references, but oh, we've already met our percent quota, so we can't hire him. We have to go with this other person who's less qualified because they meet, this and this that we don't in theory have enough of. And like, that's kind of where you start to get not good.
Well, and it ends up not even so much being about quotas, but like in a situation where if you have two people who are equally qualified,
Hmm.
then, and then one's male, one's female, often the female, whether the gender is the deciding factor
Hmm.
a lot of times, unfortunately, because that's discrimination of a different kind.
Hmm.
Like, it's a discrimination against males, but also
It
it's
happens.
saying,
It happens against females. We're speaking very
well,
generally.
but what I'm saying is, even that way of doing it, of showing preferential treatment,
Mhm.
is a form of discrimination as well. It's saying,
Mhm.
well, what makes you worthwhile is the fact that you're a female.
Mhm.
We don't actually care about your qualifications as much. It's the fact that you're female. That was the deciding factor,
Mhm.
which reduces your worth as
Yeah.
an individual. It reduces it to something that's outside of your control.
Mhm.
I can control the fact that I'm male. I mean, I don't want to control the fact that I'm male. I enjoy being male. And just as you enjoy being a female, at least I hope. I mean, certainly do most nights. But anyway, but the point is, the solution to discrimination is not more discrimination.
On the flip
That
side.
Yeah, it's not to it. You shouldn't just, we're just going to change who the discrimination applies to,
Mhm.
and basically say, well, if you are, we need, X, Y, and Z, of different ethnic group, different demographics, whatever. Pick your poison.
Mhm.
And if you're not that, then you are less likely
Mhm.
to get a promotion, to get any. Again, just depends on what the situation is.
Mhm.
So, the solution to discrimination, if you will, is not diversity, equity, and inclusion. Never has been, and will never be. The actual solution is a acronym that I discovered recently, and it's called MEI, Merit, Excellence, and Integrity. And I have to give credit where credit's due. I don't know who came up with this, but I first heard about it on the PBD podcast. So Patrick Bet David is the host, and one of the co-hosts, Adam Sosnick, is the one I first heard bring this up. And when he said it, I was like, "Holy shit! That like makes so much more sense."
Mhm.
When your decision making is based on merit, so the actual merits of the individual, So instead of looking at someone through the lens of what category do you fit in, it's you personally. What are you like? So you look at their merit, at the excellence with which they perform their job, their personal integrity. Those are the things that we should be caring about when we're evaluating people for any position or for any job or anything.
Mhm.
That should be our driving force. How do you feel that we see a lot of merit, excellence, and integrity as the qualifications for which people are promoted by these days?
That's hard because, like, I feel like, not to make it about me, but just for example, I have experienced where somebody has looked at just my straight resume and, acknowledged that I have education, certifications, and all the rest of it. But then they might question, oh, I don't know about for this position because, you've only been, a paramedic for X amount of time.
Hmm.
But once I go through the evaluation and you have a conversation with me, we go through like
Hmm.
scenarios and interview, and I'm able to stand on my own 2 feet, I got my position. So I don't think it was because I was female. I don't, if
Hmm.
anything, my years of service could have been against me,
Hmm.
but ended up not. So I think we see a mix of it, but we do tend to see more of the DEI, not just because of, diversity and all that, but also with the good old boy system, who do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's easy for someone like me to talk about discrimination. I could say in the public eye, people could look at me and be like, well, you're, I won't say young white male, but you're a younger white male. What do you know about this? So I guess that's partly why I ask you to, because, okay, because even as a female entering a profession that has historically, I say historically, been male dominated, there's more stuff like that I'm sure you have run into than I've ever seen. Because I obviously see it from the perspective of, well, you know, the person with tits got promoted over the person that didn't. Like
Hmm.
that, and I'm not saying that as a disrespectful thing to either of those people. Just seeing how those choices have been made over the years, that's a natural conclusion or question to draw from it. But
Hmm.
obviously, you might have a different experience set with that.
No, I think stuff like that, not necessarily because I mean you have inappropriate relationships both ways, whether
Hmm.
it's men or women getting promoted, whether it's the good old boy system, inappropriate relationships. I think something I wouldn't even say discrimination, but something that had been called into question at previous jobs, education, etc., was the fact that I was a single mom.
Mm, yeah,
So it's
yeah.
also being a parent, well, is this person reliable because they have children? It's like, well, what does children have to do with it? Oh, do you have quality childcare? Is childcare going to be a problem? Are you going to get to shift on time?
Do you want to help with that?
I mean,
I think
that would be a very good question.
I think that's something that employers should look at a lot more,
Mm,
is because there's a huge market, a lot of the workforce is single parents.
mhm.
I don't know, just a topic for discussion, maybe another time, of ways that employers could assist with the childcare and help find arrangements and help compensate with that.
Man, when I had an 8 a.m. shift, it was 0800 to 0800 for 24, and I was able to drop off the kids and still have plenty of time to get to work. That was a pretty sweet deal.
Not anymore.
I mean, no, but that's fine. That's fine. 4
But
4 a.m.'s fine.
and and I'm sure, you could make the argument that certain other industries, the DEI question could be more relevant. I mean, I can't really imagine how, but I'd be open to hearing a case for it. But when it comes to industries like medicine,
Mhm.
where the lives of our patients are at stake, ultimately, our own safety is at stake. We we should be evaluating healthcare professionals based on the quality of their care and their sense of excellence, how much they care about doing the job, and their personal integrity. Those should be the things that we're evaluating. Not just, oh, well, tell me about a time that you solved a difficult problem, or tell me about a time that you got a group of people to work together. Yes, that's important, but we need to actually dig into, like, who are you? Who are you as a person and the quality of your character?
Well, especially if you've been in enough job interviews, since everybody kind of falls back on those general behavioral based questions,
Hmm.
you can coin some kind of response because it's not a question that's going to catch you off guard.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will say the question that I hate the most, that I don't understand the point of, is what is your greatest weakness? I hate I hate that question.
I mean, I can appreciate it from the sense of I think that's one of those ones that it isn't exactly what you say in response to it that matters, but it's how you address that question. I and in general, I agree with you. I think the behavioral based questions have very, very hard limits as far as what they can actually elicit. But that particular question is interesting because if you're watching body language, tonality, not just what they say, but how they say it, that can reveal some things about their character. It can. But in general, I agree with you. It's very easy to have like the pre-canned responses to things
Mhm.
because everybody uses the same kinds of questions pretty much wherever you go.
Mhm.
So I get that. I get that. I'm with you on that. Well, and especially in today's economy, and I think there's a shift. I think that what we're seeing in the market now across a lot of different cross sections is the downsides of living in a DEI world. And again, it's not that, I'm not in any way saying that, oh, well, we should promote discrimination. No. But using DEI as the trump card, no pun intended to anybody, um, using DEI as a trump card is very, very detrimental, especially to healthcare and public service.
Well, so I think somewhere that I kind of see has gone in the direction of DEI in healthcare in general, but especially in EMS. I guess you could say healthcare in general. Sorry,
Hmm.
I was trying to find my words. Is
Did you find them? Are they still hiding?
shut
Sorry, I had to throw in a dad joke for the day. Look at the cat.
up. She is such a princess. Can you see on the video?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Oh
She's
my,
like asleep on my arm.
she's so pretty. Anyways,
Anyway, you're saying.
um, let's. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. So, let's take like EMT school for example. The way it is right now is the DEI. Literally anybody can sign up for EMT school. There
Yeah.
it as long as you, for example, the program that I'm associated with right now, um stop. That I'm associated with right now,
Stop.
as long as you do the like initial testing to get accepted into the like college, once you
Hmm.
like sign up for stuff, there's no prereq. It's not like you need to take like, English and math and, this science class and A&P and all of this stuff to get into EMT. Anybody and everybody, doesn't matter color, gender, um, you know, orientation, weight. There's literally no limit.
Yeah.
And there's no interview process. And sure, for example, with paramedic school, you have to do a weighted application and stuff, but they've kind of moved away from in-person interviews. And I understand wanting to get as many people to come into EMT and EMS and get associated and get their initial education. Like, we need the influx of people. But at the same time, how often do we see people coming in that if we had some kind of like interview process, would we be able to weed out ahead of time instead of them suffering through, you know, 1 month, one semester, however long, that everybody, including the instructors, are putting in all of this effort and they end up failing out, flaming out, withdrawing, they can't deal with it, whatever. I think a good thing that maybe EMS should look into doing is requiring anybody that's interested in it, go do one ride time, 1 8-hour ride time on an ambulance just to see if they could even handle it.
Hmm.
Because I would hate, I hate for the people that get all the way through EMT and at the end of the day are like, wow, I can't handle blood. It's like, okay, they just wasted an entire semester, money, time, stress, all of the things to realize, ew, I just got this and I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Go do an 8-hour ride time. Have some kind of interview process to find out, hey, this person is, kind of like a pedophile, or
Hmm.
hey, this person is highly inappropriate, or is in a detrimental way psychologically damaged, and maybe not tell them like you can't come into the program, but like, hey, you need to understand that mental health is a struggle for this field, and if you don't have a handle on it now, you might struggle harder. We might be able to help those people come in with a healthier mindset if we can catch them before entering. Does that
Well,
make sense? I think I just repeated myself.
no, no, and I agree with you fully because when I first got into this, I used to try and recruit everybody,
Hmm.
but I got into this at a time now. Oh fuck, how long ago? 12 years ago,
I
12 and a
think
half years ago,
I would
something like
say
that.
probably 13.
Get it round up at this point. But at that time, most of the people coming into this really wanted to be here.
Hmm.
It wasn't just, oh, I'm just doing this for fun, or it was an education opportunity. I figured I'd give it a whirl. Like, no, they wanted to be fucking EMTs. We wanted to be fucking paramedics.
Hmm.
Like we used to make fun of the people that would use it as a stepping stone. Now, obviously, I look back and it's like, well, no, that's not entirely fair.
Hmm.
But like that was the tone, that was the culture at the time. Was if you were getting into this, you wanted to be here.
Hmm.
Well, now that we have seen so many classes come through from various programs, not singling out any one place because it's happening everywhere.
It's just the general public.
Yeah, it's and I appreciate the education being made affordable, being made accessible, all of that. But seeing almost basically an entire generation of providers, not all of them, but a lot of them, that don't have that drive. They don't have that like deep seated desire to be here and do this. It's detrimental to the field. It's massively detrimental.
Well, I think what doesn't help either, though, is the way public service as a whole, fire, EMS, law enforcement, etc., is portrayed on movies and TV
Oh
shows
dear
and
fucking god.
all the rest of it. uh because the general public doesn't understand the reality, especially with the extent of education that even EMTs have to go through and skills and everything else, they come in expecting one thing and not understand what it actually is. So like, it, instead of the, non-discrimination, whatever, the DEI, I
DEI,
can never remember that acronym.
yeah.
But instead of going with DEI and anybody and everybody is welcome to come, it's like, if we had criteria like go do a ride time, it's not just weeding out the inappropriate people, but like maybe they'll find that they don't want to do it. Because if somebody finishes something they don't want to do, they're not going to do it well. They're not going to take it seriously. They're not going to be, I don't want to say nice, but like they're not going to have a good attitude about it.
Well, and we there's such a push for recruitment in
Hmm.
public service. We're so focused on getting as many people as we can, of all shapes, sizes, colors, all of it. We harp on that so much, but we don't focus on fucking retention.
Hmm.
And if you want to fix retention, you need to focus on the MEI, the merit, excellence, and integrity. You need to reinforce that. You need to reward it. That is how, not just you should handle promotions, obviously, that's a big part of it.
Hmm.
You shouldn't be promoting people that don't actually deserve it.
Hmm.
There should not be honorary promotions, not in this fucking job.
No.
Because if you're promoted, the expectations of you, not just in the office, but in the field, are much fucking higher. People are calling you for help, then they're already at their limit of what they can deal with. You need to be on your fucking game. So this
Well,
whole, oh, well, you know what? They're not that great. So we'll just, we'll put them as as lieutenant or crew chief or whatever. Like they'll be fine. That you're just going to shit on your crews, and which is you're rewarding the people that aren't good at the job, and then the people that are good at the job are going to get frustrated because they're like, well, why am I doing this? Why am I sticking around here?
mhm.
And guess what? You suddenly have a retention problem because the good people don't want to fucking stay.
Well, and so there was something that I heard about recently, that there was a paramedic student that had graduated a program, a good program, has been, officially certified for like 5 months. And, smart, did well in school. Very gung ho about the job, which is great. We need to have good attitudes. But a paramedic who's been certified for less than 6 months was recently put on a QRV, a chase truck. And the reason being, wants to prove himself, wants to get a supervisor position eventually, yada, yada, yada. But the fact that I hear crews, EMTs, paramedics, drivers, all certifications, laughing and talking shit about this person for the fact that he's on a QRV, but literally can't handle a basic chest pain call, or, flew out a back pain with no altered mental status 16 plus hours prior as a level 1 trauma because the dude fell down like 16 steps or some shit like that. Like,
Mhm.
yes, we need to have good attitudes, but with retention and, the DEI versus the MEI, you you need to support your people. Don't promote somebody just because they're gung ho, just because they have a good attitude. Because if you promote somebody that's not ready for it, whether in experience or leadership classes or just somebody who is ready for the position, they still are probably going to fail. It's going to ruin, their being gung ho about it. It's going to make everyone else make fun of them. And if it's bad enough, that person that was not prepared to be promoted and got promoted may end up leaving.
Yeah.
Whether the
Yeah.
service, whether it's the field, this provider I think could be a very good provider, but if we're gonna let him, there's a little bit of like, you need to flounder in the water to learn how to
Oh
swim
yeah,
in
definitely.
EMS. But
Definitely.
to the point that he's getting it, and the fact that, I asked him, how is it to be a paramedic? And in less than 6 months as a provider, his response was, eh,
We're setting people up for
that's
failure.
he is set up for failure. He should not be on a QRV. Like, I have no doubt he's gung ho for it.
Mhm.
But 6 months?
Yeah,
Hell
no.
no. Hell
No.
no.
And
He hasn't done the time, and he doesn't have the merits. He doesn't have the experience. He might have, good integrity, but I guarantee you part of it is, he's a male who's stepping up and saying, I want to learn. It's like, okay, if you want to learn, be taken under somebody's wing
mhm.
who has experience. Train him appropriately. Put him in some leadership classes. Get him to take some instructor classes.
Mhm.
Something that he can do. Meet in the middle. Don't just
Mhm.
promote based on DEI, fall back on MEI, and support your people with the retention. Don't just give somebody with 6 months experience and put them on a QRV. If you can't handle a basic chest pain call or a breather without calling for another paramedic, you are not ready.
Now, and something, it's very easy for us to criticize the people who we label as company men or company women, company people.
People.
Right. So, my thoughts on this have shifted a little bit because I've started to gain an understanding of business. So I'm going to throw in, I think that people who are promoted should be, one characteristic of them, one quality should be, yes, they are supportive of the company. They are in favor of the industry. They do embrace the vision and the values of the industry, and they are eager to do so. That should be a characteristic, a quality of someone that you promote. Period. It should be. The problem is, I'll say this is my caveat, is it should not be a trump card used to override lack of experience, lack of confidence, all of that. It is just one piece of the puzzle. It should not be, oh, well, they're really gung-ho and excited. They're, all about the company. So, yeah, we figured they deserve the promotion. No, the fuck they don't.
No.
No, the fuck they don't.
Well, and I agree with what you're saying, but it shouldn't be, oh, I love the company as is and we're going to drink the Kool-Aid. It should be, I love where I work and I want to make it better. I want to do my part to make it better. Not, we're going to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm going to fall in. I'm going to be the exact same leader as my predecessor.
No.
Like, not the company man that we're going to precipitate.
Right. Not saying they need to be a yes man.
Mm-hmm.
More so just that they embrace, they are going to try to act in the best interest of the organization. Because think about it in terms of, if you run a business, you don't want to hire people, and you definitely don't want to promote people that aren't on board with what you're trying to do, that aren't supportive. I don't want to promote somebody who is going to go talk shit about my company. That's not appropriate in any context. So EMS and public service are no exception. So that's why I have that caveat. No, I agree with you that part of being a company man, a true company man, company woman, whatever, is you're looking out for the best interest and you challenge the things that are not in the best interest of the agency and the team and the people that work there.
Which I will say is why, whether it's a service, an industry, our project,
Mhm.
whatever, you should have core values. You should have a vision statement
Haven't we talked about this before?
multiple times.
just a little bit.
Have a vision, or
Little bit.
let's see, core values, mission, vision statement, whatever,
Mhm.
pick a word. But also in the grand scheme of things, you should have a why. Like, if you make a decision that people don't understand or don't agree with, at least explain the why. Like, hey, you may
Yep.
not see it now, but why are we, doing this or that? Oh, ultimately we want to be here.
Mhm.
Ultimately we want to have this paramedic program, or ultimately we want to have this professional connection.
Mhm.
So even if all the steps or promotions or creating new job positions, getting ready for something, it might not make sense initially,
Mhm.
but it's like, hey, we're moving in this direction.
Yeah.
Don't have all the steps, but this is the beginning of it.
Well, and I think a big step to moving towards an MEI orientation is we need to overhaul our understanding of qualifications and how we evaluate people. That even people that when we talked to some about having some gatekeeping at the beginning of, hey, we need to maybe restrict a little bit, make it harder for people to get their EMT. Make it a little bit harder for them to get their paramedic. I know people bitch and complain about anatomy and physiology. Like, oh, I don't want to take the really hard AMP class.
I want to take a 2-week class.
Oh my God. So if that's your attitude
Mm-hmm.
is, oh, I want to do the easiest route possible, fuck you. You don't belong in this job because people's lives are going to be in your hands.
Well, my fallback on that, if we want to make that argument, is okay. So are we going to say that doctors no longer have to have, I mean, an MD? Can I become a doctor if I only have an associate's degree
You
and
can
then go to med
identify as a
school?
doctor.
You don't want me to be your doctor.
Yeah. No. I mean, I would trust you more than some of the doctors we've run into over the years. But
I'm pretty sure I would trust the cat more than a couple of the doctors that we've run into.
Yeah.
But point being, I'm not saying that we need to gatekeep and look at somebody and be like, I don't like the way you dress. Fuck you.
No, not like that.
No, truly, for jobs, I would love doing something more like, oral boards, during job interviews and stuff, the behavioral based questions. Yeah, you want to get to know me as a person and how I interact with people, but that's also what references are for.
Yeah.
That's what references and, digging deep, not digging deep into somebody, but looking at job history and experience, maybe even social media, whatever is for.
Yeah.
But on the clinical side of things, maybe do more oral boards. Do you actually know your protocols? Do you actually know what medicine is, used for? Or do you have to whip out your protocols every time you run a call?
Well, and even just from a clinical perspective. So, when we talk about, how we look at qualifications, this is a job that's so multifaceted that there's I guess you could say 3 components to how we should be evaluating people as providers. A is clinical, and B is leadership, because even if you're not getting promoted, you still have to be a leader. You still have to be a leader in a variety of capacities. And 3, we got to look at your education, the quality of your not just what's on your diploma, license, whatever, but the quality of the education you've had. But and I don't think this is unreasonable, because if you look at other industries, so before I got into EMS, I worked at a call center locally here in South Carolina. Hated the fucking job. Hated it. Not so much the last part of my time there, but eventually I just got tired of being at a fucking desk. So even though I didn't mind the department I was in, it still wasn't great. But I started out in the sales department. Now, obviously, my mindset on sales has shifted a little bit, but I sucked at it. Sucked dick. And I was held accountable, and they would regularly pull recordings, and they had a unified standard to which we were all held accountable.
It's called a matrix.
Yeah. I forget exactly what term they used for it. It wasn't just a rubric, but it was, they called it shopping calls. They would, you'd have to get, you know, it would affect your promotions. It would affect your ability to move to different shifts. It would affect your ability to move up in the organization. Like,
Mhm.
it was a standard, and they said you're either meeting the standard or you're not.
Mhm.
And if over time, being coached, of being helped, of all the things, you were going to progress to the point where you were going to be let go. And I was lucky enough that I was able to move to a different department,
Mhm.
and because my shops were horrible,
Mhm.
just absolutely fucking horrible. And when I moved departments, of course, the question was asked, well, you really did kind of a shitty job upstairs. Why am I bringing
Why?
you down
Yeah. Why
here?
should we take you?
And, I made the case of, hey, I'm not good at that. I'm just really not good at it. I believe I can do this down here. And I was told, like, all right, I'm here for it,
Mhm.
but you need to make sure that you show up. And
Mhm.
guess what? I did a lot better.
Mhm.
And I was rewarded for it.
Mhm.
And so I think from a clinical standpoint, we need to be holding people to a standard, not the lowest common denominator,
No,
not that.
you should actively be raising the bar on that.
Yes, and this should be common sense. Like, in agencies that want to keep us back in the fucking Stone Age, like, come on, guys, come on, let's get with the program. Medicine is advancing; you need to as well. But we need that unified standard and rewarding people when they go above and beyond it.
Mhm.
And that should be baseline. But we also shouldn't reward the people that are going below that standard.
Mhm.
But how often do we see that? Oh, well, we'll just put them over here because we like them, or people, they get along with people, or oh, they can teach okay.
Well, I mean, how many times do we see students passed along in school because programs are so worried about their attrition rates?
Mm-hmm.
I would say not 100%, but I would say that most, like more than 50% of programs are not sharing their accurate attrition rates.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
They're not. They're either forcing students through and saying, oh, well, if they didn't pass registry, it's not my fault. They did well in the class. Like, that falls on them. They didn't study. Or, oh, we have a 100% pass rate of the program, you know, or the EMT. Let's say 100% pass rate in our EMT. It's like, okay, well, those are of your graduates. How many people did you lose throughout the program? And here's the thing. I acknowledge that life happens. Students have to drop out of school. I started paramedic school in Arkansas and I dropped out for personal, familial,
Yeah.
pick a word, reasons.
I had the same thing. I had to drop out and
Yeah.
come back a year later.
Yeah. But outside of like the family and personal things, if we did some kind of like interview process, basically weeding out process, attrition rates would be more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
You would have better attrition rates, but also that kind of stuff should be released. Throughout school, when you're doing your clinicals in your ride time, you're actively being graded on all kinds of stuff. Your knowledge, your ability to do skills, your behavior. Why does that stop after you're done with school?
Yeah.
Because I mean, your grade gives, all that is calculated into your final grade. Well, I know, a lot of services have their yearly, employee evaluations and blah, blah, blah. But how often are those done by supervisors that you have never run calls with?
Or they're just like, yeah, okay, you didn't completely fuck up, so I'm just going to like push it through and it's fine.
Yeah, okay, you didn't kill anybody, so it's fine, even though
Yeah,
you don't know
no.
your protocols. Oh, you went to every single IST, but you did the bare minimum.
Well, in that, moving from, evaluating clinical qualifications to leadership qualifications,
Mhm.
leadership needs to, we need a consistent standard for leadership itself.
Mhm.
So we need to have, and again, the fire service does this decently well.
Mhm.
They have
With
a
their fire
series of classes
Yep.
that you have to go through. Now, I haven't taken those classes. I don't know what's in them personally.
So if you know, please share.
Yeah, be interested. Share some notes, some flashcards, whatever you got.
But you are only allowed to do certain jobs or get certain promotions if you've taken certain classes.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even eligible to apply for something.
And but I think we're lacking that very much in EMS, and we aren't doing a good job of saying these are the hard and fast expectations that are available to anyone.
Yeah, anyone.
To see. This whole mystery voodoo shit of, oh, well, we promoted them because of this and this and this. Really? Where's the standard for what it takes to get promoted? Where's it written down? Can someone provide it?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, oh well, no, it's just like you don't have a standard basically, and that's not fair because you can have people who are great providers,
Mm-hmm.
who are likable, who get along with patients, but they're not good leaders, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you do need to have a certain amount of leadership capability, but if we're going to put you in a leadership position, we need to actually know that you can do it. We need to actually and have some proof that you have been educated on it. Because what does National Registry serve to cover is saying, hey, you were taught to this standard.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a courtroom and say, well, I didn't know that. Well, it says right here that National Registry teaches this, and you have a National Registry card in your pocket, so you should have fucking known.
Well,
Same should be for leadership.
Well, the fact that every education program is not required to be co-A, it's just you're restricted on where you can practice, is such bullshit. It's ridiculous. That should be the industry standard.
Well,
But I sidestepped.
we're coming to education.
But with leadership, you can be a leader on the truck. You can be a leader within your, your little clique, your shift, your whatever. But
Don't get me started about clicks.
But that doesn't mean that you can be a leader for, maybe your whole shift or the whole department or whatever. Because I've seen services that do really, really well: fire, EMS, law enforcement, the library system, everybody in the county works really well together. And then I've seen other counties where fire, EMS, and law enforcement literally hate each other. You show up and you're just like, why the fuck are you here? Like, clear.
Yeah. You need that. I mean, I would say as a provider, you need the ability to interact well with other disciplines in public service. That should be a bare minimum. But especially if you are going to move up into leadership, this needs to be something that, okay, even if it's not like I can ask you in an interview. I mean, I can kind of, but it's not like I can ask you like, hey, how would you do giving a presentation with the sheriff's department? Like when you've never met these guys ever.
I think
Like,
on the fly, you should have to.
well, yeah, but I'm saying like it's little toe beans. It's something that should be evaluated even after you get the job. So let's say, hey, you've never been in a leadership position before and you get promoted. All right, cool. Well, like we're going to see how it goes. And one of the rubrics, one of the metrics we're going to use is how is your rapport with the other agencies that you have to work with? Ones that you don't have authority over, but you have to interact with them. Which, yes, you can initially base it off their reputation in the field, but you need an ongoing metric to monitor that and see if there's positive or negative changes. It's part of being a leader is you need to be held to a higher standard.
Well, and they need to be evaluated periodically. I had thought and it left me.
It said bye-bye.
It really did. It was there while you were talking, and as soon as you stopped talking, it left.
Listen, I have had that happen. Like literally, you were talking earlier, and I was like, okay, I think I know the next thing I want to say. I know the next thing I want to say. 5 times I had to remind myself and sit there and be like, fuck, what is it? What was I going to say? What were we going to do? I mean, like I was listening to you, but it was like I was trying to cue up in my head what I was going to talk about, and it's like, what the fuck was I going to talk about? I have no fucking idea. If she stopped talking now, I'd be fucking dead in the water. So I get it.
No, it left me.
Well, it's okay, so we can go on to talking about education now. Your favorite topic. Well, and I grew up in a household where I wouldn't say that like college wasn't mandatory. I'm going to say that it wasn't mandatory, but it was expected, especially, well, not especially, it was expected of the boys in the house. Whole different,
Anyways.
But
different day, different circus.
Yeah. But it's not. Yes, we both believe in higher education for EMS. We both believe that there should be more collegiate level programs. Okay, we want to argue about this. Go look at the countries where EMS is fucking blowing us out of the water.
Oh, I think we shared this 1 or 2 episodes ago.
But really, like, think about Australia. Fucking Australia blows the pants off of us when it comes to EMS. The stuff they're doing, how long they've been doing it. They've been 10, 15 years ahead of us for decades. Like, But what is it they require? If you're going to commit to being a paramedic, it is a fucking thing. Their education system's a little bit different than ours, but effectively,
The way it translates though is their minimum is a bachelor's degree. Fuck your certification.
minimum.
Yeah, fuck your certification. Their minimum is a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
You can get a master's and even a PhD. They are respected in the hospital systems as doctors. They can
Now,
do field C-sections. They can do.
I think field amputation.
Y-
I don't.
I'm
don't quote
pretty
me on
sure.
that.
I'm pretty
but-
sure they can do chest tubes. They can
And here's
so much.
well, but here's also a thing: is it's because before we get people saying, "Oh, well, it's not about the classes." No, it's not just about the classes because they make people over there. I can't remember if it was Australia or New Zealand that that had this requirement, but they literally have to spend a year second person on the truck.
Oh yeah, I know.
Like
what you're talking about.
it is just you. This is not third ride time. This is you are working hand in hand with another paramedic, and you've got to handle your shit. I can't.
I feel like it was Australia, but
I
please
think so.
If you're listening, please correct us if
Yeah,
we're
it
wrong.
was
But
either Australia or New Zealand. It was one of the two. I think.
honestly, it might have been both.
I mean, both of them are doing really well.
Yeah, I was gonna say it honestly might have been both. But I feel like you had to ride second. I remember this because you had to ride second man before you could even test.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is before you're even certified.
Yeah, it's before you're even
This
certified.
this is literally part of your education.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's not just I took all these extra classes. No, the expectations are very fucking high.
Well, because here's the thing: anybody can take a class in theory. If you're already a paramedic, anybody can take an instructor class and pass. It doesn't mean you're a good teacher. It doesn't mean you're a good leader. So on paper, you might have, XYZ credential certifications, but it's what you do with it. It's, for example, did you
Probably
do
not.
not you, but if you're an EMT instructor, for example, you were required to do your 40 hours of monitored lecturing to get the certification. Okay, cool. You got your certification, but you're an adjunct at, a program or whatever. You're seen as an instructor. When was the last time you actually lectured? Are you continuing to lecture? Are you continuing to ask for feedback? Are you making your own lectures, or are you using the book required, or like the general book, like lectures that come
textbook,
with
yeah.
Yeah, the textbook lectures. I couldn't find the words. Are you doing the bare minimum and you just have the credentials, or did you actually do the work to keep up with it? One of my program directors, he's, still teaching, amazing. His wife said it best. He didn't just get his instructor certs and everything. He goes to symposiums and meetings, and he might go to a 3-day conference to get education and, find out why. And maybe he only finds out like why they wrote 2 questions the way that they did. He does the research and the continuing ed on top of the certifications he already has.
Which goes into, it's not just the level of education you have, it's the quality of education you have. Because you can have, 2 collegiate programs, but one has access to better resources, more instructors, better pass rates, all of that. All of those things. No, it's not a standalone evaluation. It's not a only factor that trumps everything. But it's something that needs to be considered when you're looking at somebody for a relevant promotion, is what kind of program did they come from? But all of that is stuff that needs to be taken into consideration when you're looking at promoting somebody, when you're looking at pay raises, all of those things. All of those things are factors in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's cultural implications to this too. And I say cultural, like culture, workplace culture implications for all of this. And we touched on it briefly, but when you have a merit and performance based approach to rewarding your people, you're not only going to improve your retention internally, but you're going to also increase your recruitment of quality people, because EMS is a small world. We all talk. We all know everybody.
Yes. One way or the other. If I don't know somebody personally, I know somebody that knows somebody.
Yes, we all know each other. So it's not a problem, but it's you're sorry, I had a verbal stroke there myself.
Yay. I'm
Wee
not the only
woo,
one
wee
stroking.
woo. But a MEI culture is going to do better.
Hmm.
It is, and we have seen this in places we've worked in adjacent departments and whatnot. People that have an MEI focus and have leadership that acts accordingly, their retention's great. Like,
Hmm.
they don't have a problem. They've got quality people. They've got a good reputation. They attract quality people. Like, you can't argue with it. MEI gives results, gives good quality results. It's basic math, really.
Hmm. Well, and with the MEI, the education, the clinical, the leadership, the cultural, everything collectively, like when we're talking about promotions, for example, I think there needs to be kind of, I guess you'd say, a middle ground. Let's say, for example, you have two providers. Both of them have the minimum requirements, but one of them only has the minimum requirements. Likable person,
Mm-hmm.
likable person,
Mm-hmm.
but they are so set in their ways, whether it's arrogance, whether it's 30 years of service, whether it's whatever, and they're not what we would call teachable. They're not willing to learn. They're not willing to go out of their way to do better. If they're expected to make interdepartmental connections, they expect those departments to come to them, or
Mm-hmm.
they're only going to halfway do it. Oh, well, they have to meet me in the middle. I'm not going to go all the way to them, or I don't know, I'm just kind of
Yeah.
shooting from the hip, but in general, they're not willing to go above and beyond. But maybe you have the other person that has the minimum requirements, has, medium years of service, whatever, but they're teachable. Not like, oh, they can't do anything on their own, but like they're teachable. They want to learn the job. They want to learn, maybe in the position, they want to go to additional classes. I really wonder what's in the fire officer classes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it extremely fire based? Please tell us, listeners. Is it extremely fire based? Like, it would only function with the fire department?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it like a general enough leadership officer class that maybe EMS could go to those classes to actually learn leadership and,
Yeah.
command and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I'm sure a lot of the practical applications are like, yes, they're fire in nature, but I mean, leadership as a topic, you would think,
You would think.
there's enough cross applications that, okay, even if you have to tune out some of the fire stuff because it's not relevant to your job, it's still worthwhile content.
Hmm.
I mean, there's been an overhaul in general of leadership training in this country because a lot of it prior to the past few years has not been like really good, higher quality. So,
I
yeah.
think it would be hilarious if a bunch of EMS people like ended up like genuinely wanting to take a fire officer class because it
Yeah.
had that. Because I mean, leadership that might be required in like not a blue collar, a white collar, like day trading, or
Hmm.
I don't know, something like that,
Yeah.
would not necessarily translate well over to like public service.
Kind of, though. I mean, I think what we've seen with people like Jocko Willink, though, is that
I mean, fair,
leadership is completely independent of whatever job and industry you're doing
fair,
because the applications are the same
yeah.
ultimately.
Hmm.
So, anyway, that's our 2 cents on the DEI conversation. Hope you enjoyed it. Got any final thoughts?
Move away from DEI, do MEI, and start
Hmm.
interviewing people before they go to school.
Focus on retention, not just recruitment,
You know
and
what?
you will do much better.
The way we're gonna weed out the psychopaths is we're gonna start asking what your favorite dinosaur is. Could you imagine? Mine's a long neck.
I
But
really don't have a preference. I mean, probably either a T-Rex or a Velociraptor. That's kind of
he's
like,
a psychopath.
I mean, probably it's questionable.
He did,
Anyway,
he did have the wrong answer for the dinosaur question.
okay. All right, guys. If you learned something, awesome. Share with your friends. If you're offended, good. You can tell your friends about that too. You can be embarrassed. It's fine. It's okay. We'll accept you anyway.
Eh.
Kind of make them feel important. It's fine.
But maybe there was somebody that should have been weeded out originally.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. All right, guys. Be good. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.